name is Barbara Boyd, and I chair the Kentucky Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. We are here today along with members of Louisville Showing Up for Racial Justice, recent graduate of Jefferson County Public Schools, the Justice Resource Center, FOR, and ARROS, along with the members of the Board of the Human Relations Commission. And the purpose of this press conference is to express our opposition of the state trying to take over Jefferson County Public Schools. And you are going to hear from the individuals seated at the table on why we feel like Jefferson County Public Schools needs to be able to bring themselves out of the mess that we are in. We're not saying that we don't have issues, because we know we do, but we need to be able to clean our own house, and we don't need members appointed by Governor Bevin to do his bidding of our school district. The first person you're going to hear from is Don Wilson with the Human Relations Commission Board.
Thank you, Barbara. My name is Don Wilson. I am I'm a commissioner of the Human Relations Commission here in Louisville. I'm also the education chair. And for 8 years, we have been working with JCPS on numerous issues. Everything from vetting of minority vendors to the recruitment and attainment of minority teachers, to restorative practices for injustice, working with Clout and others. We have been very busy in looking at continuing education for people who may be incarcerated at this time. There are a lot of issues on the table. We have been for 8 years having quarterly meetings with JCPS to help them resolve a lot of the issues that you've been hearing about today. And we are continuing to work with them. Right now we are working with them on racial equity policy. Some of us are going to be sitting on that selection committee. These things are important to us. Why? Because we understand the community. We know it takes a lot in this community to address the issues that are there. And as Ms. Boyd had pointed out, this took years to get here. It didn't happen overnight. And unfortunately, even though we have seen incremental changes, we want to make sure that we take care of our own, because we understand the community at large. It is that community that needs us. We do not need someone who has no idea what this community is capable of, no idea where this community is in their feelings, and most importantly, no attachment to this community. If you never went to school in this community, how can you tell somebody at JCPS how you feel about what's going on? That makes no sense. So on behalf of the Human Relations Commission, we're going to continue to work with JCPS. As a matter of fact, they have a moniker for us, their critical friend. And as one of their chief critical friends, we are definitely going to continue working with them. There is no need for an outside force to come in and take over the school system and cause untold amounts of disruption, loss of revenue, and matter of fact, scaring off good teachers, good employees, and even having good students leave. This is our school system, this is our community, and we will stand and fight for our community.
Here, here. Thank you. Next, we have Ruben Pulliam with the Justice Resource Center and an avid community supporter.
First of all, I'm against the governor and his bully pulpit, which he brought. We could see it coming. He brought the hatchet people in, like Dr. Lewis, to start taking over the Jefferson County public school system. And I don't know if the school president of the Kentucky Educational Pruitt, I don't know if he told him he wasn't going to take over the school system or not, but we could all see it working. And it worked now to where he got Pritchett, not Pritchett, but the Reverend Lewis. They got him in charge to do the hatchet work. And I've been working with the school system. I've mentored in the school system. And I've also worked with quite a few of the teachers. And we do not need no takeover by the state of Kentucky for this school system. We can do it ourselves.
Thank you.
Thank
David Lott is a member of the Kentucky Alliance, longtime social justice advocate. David.
What we've been witnessing over the past few months with the attacks by the Bevin administration on the Jefferson County Public Schools, echoing actions coming out of Washington, is part of a pattern of attacks on public education across this nation. And we should not suffer any illusions that this proposed state takeover of the JCPS has anything to do with improving the quality of education for Black and brown students. It's a form of disaster capitalism. It's an effort to use real social problems, in this case, severe and persistent inequities that exist within our public school system between Black, brown, and white students, to justify the privatization of education and turn the public trust into a source of private profit through charter schools and other proposals that will sap the funding from public education. The same crowd in Frankfurt that wants the state to take over the schools is objectively joining those advocating for turning over prisons to private profiteers making money off of the horrible system of mass incarceration. And by planning to undermine a democratically elected school board, Governor Bevin and his friends are joining forces with all those who seek to undermine the democratic process through voter suppression by other means. The proposed state takeover is no solution. It only creates more problems. It is fundamentally an anti-democratic and racist proposal.
And next I want to introduce Carla Wallace, Director of L-Surge.
Hello, thank you, Barbara, and community members are here. Thank you to the media for being here. I'm with Louisville Showing Up for Racial Justice. We have been closely involved back to the racial equity scorecard, the restorative justice issues, the issues around policing in the schools, and most recently, the racial justice efforts that have been moving forward in JCPS. There is no way that we can look at the governor's attacks on workers' rights, on health care, on the environment, and on education and not see this as a deep attack on people most impacted by all of these issues. Marginalized people are most impacted by the problems that we have in the JCPS school. But the solution is not to move folks farther away from being part of the solution, is to put them at the center of creating the solutions. Any time in our history when democracy has been undermined, those who need democracy most are put to the side and are marginalized and are oppressed. The only thing we need here is an expansion of democracy in terms of local control, and in particular, local control by the parents, the teachers, and the workers most impacted by the issues in JCPS schools. Thank you. Very well stated.
Next we have Kentucky Civil Rights Hall of Famer, political strategist, and Kentucky Alliance Board member Gracie Lewis.
Hello, my name is Gracie Lewis, and I am totally and unconditionally against this takeover. This administration is all about money, power, and control. The University of Louisville, which has just elected a new president, is already and has been, making no mistake about it, they are in the different schools at U of L is they're providing wraparound services for the students in JCPS. At Central High School, the University of Louisville School of Brandeis Law School, they have a law and government class there. Our Kent School of Social Work is currently providing wraparound services for the students and their families. Our School of Dentistry is also assisting within the Jefferson County Public School System. So the support is available through the Community Engagement Office at the University of Louisville. And I can speak to myself, I have serious problems of us just hiring a superintendent of a school who is being paid $275,000 to be insulted to be placed in an advisory capacity.
I agree.
Okay. Next, we have another Kentucky Civil Rights Hall of Famer and board member with the Kentucky Alliance, longtime civil rights activist, Nancy DeMatra.
Hello.
Oh, and she's also a retired educator.
Hello. I am very concerned about the takeover. First of all, I do not feel that the State Board of Education has the expertise or the experience to know what to do in a situation involving children who are underachieving. If we really look at the situation, we know that when people are poor, they do not have the prenatal care, the nutrition, or the stress-free life they need when they are carrying the child. When the child is born, they do not have money for the proper pre-K interventions. Neither can they afford the daycares that will provide the best opportunities. Children who are deprived of the necessary basic skills from birth to 3 years old suffer many delays in education, and we at this state do nothing about it. If the state wants to do something, what they need to do is institute a pre-K program for children 2 through 5 that would introduce language development, phonics, and the basic skills necessary for children to be kindergarten ready.
That's right.
The governor has not done anything, and neither has our legislature, to provide what is necessary. And what I say, that this is a situation where we have a wage gap. When you have a wage gap, it means that the families do not have the money necessary to do what the wealthy families and the affluent families do. And our testing situation is based on affluence. And so what I say is they need to get back to the basics. Our state needs to get back to the basics. They need to provide for the families that they're cheating out of money on their jobs.
And next we have Miss Kara Cunningham. She is a recent graduate of Mill High School, and she'll be attending Hampton University in the fall. A success story, not a failing student.
Coming from the perspective as a recent graduate from JCPS, it's honestly devastating to hear that the state government wants to do a takeover over JCPS. It's putting administrators in the position that have no educational experience to make decisions for the students who are the future of tomorrow. And it honestly makes me think that if the state does the takeover, it would slowly deteriorate our schools every day. And since the kids are our future, we might not have a future if the state eventually does take over.
And you see, we have a rich blend of our community partners that have parents, students, teachers, community activists. Next, we have Gay Adelman. Gay is the founder of Dear JCPS. She's also a friend of the Kentucky Alliance and a member of ARROS. Gay.
Thank you. So we've been in the community canvassing and asking community members what they think about a state takeover, and there's no denying that JCPS needs improvement, but we have not met a single affected community member that has said that they're in favor of a state takeover, despite the claims that have been made by the governor and his cronies. We don't need a state takeover or state management, as Wayne Lewis called it yesterday, trying to conflate the issues as what it's being referred to. What we need are changes to state laws. We need improved practices. We need to restore educational funding to pre-recession levels. We need to adjust for the increased demands that have been placed on our schools and our teachers through unfunded mandates and unintended consequences. We need to get pro-public education legislators and school board members elected to offices. We have 4 seats in Jefferson County that are up for election this November, and the deadline to file is in a couple of weeks, and we don't even see the candidates filed yet. So we need to make sure that we have quality pro-public education running for offices in these seats if we want to protect our democracy. And in order to do that, we need to vote. So we need to demand to know the positions of these legislators and mayoral candidates as to what their stance is on charter schools and privatization of public education. We already voted board members out in 2016 based on their positions toward privatization and corporatizing public schools. And we held privatizers at bay in the legislative process in 2017. They were unable to fund their charter school mandate, which is why they're now trying this takeover. So, but Governor Bevin and his operatives are doing the very similar things to what has happened in Detroit and many other urban districts across this country. So this is not new. We're not having to guess at what's going to happen here. This is a coup. This is cronyism and corruption at its finest. They want to take over by letting the state take over our schools, we're essentially handing it back over to the people we voted out 2 years ago. White people need to stop talking out of both sides of our mouths. We cannot on one hand say we want to address the inequities in public school system, and then on the other hand go ballistic when a principal gets the due process that leads to his termination and reassignment. In fact, he should have been terminated. But he wasn't. So we need policies that will give teeth to practices that will allow us to implement what should have happened at that school 9 months ago. And now that we have a racial equity policy in place and a superintendent who's committed to racial equity, we can finally put teeth to those policies. We need to provide training and education, perhaps, so those things don't even happen in the first place.
Right.
Not perhaps, we definitely need to. So instead of whining about money wasted on busing and student assignment, how about we focus on, especially from people who have nothing to lose if it's ended, how about we talk about the funding and resources wasted on state tests? These are punitive, and they harm our vulnerable schools and students the most. I saw this with my own eyes as a parent at the Academy at Shawnee, and that's how I became as concerned as I am today. Thank you.
And next we have Adolph Thompson. He's the president of Man Up, also a parent and a board member with the Kentucky Alliance.
Thank you, Barbara. Let's be clear. The board is unanimous here about state takeover. That is something that's not in our best interest. I believe just because you change the captain on the ship doesn't mean that ship's going to go in the same direction that it's supposed to go to reach the port. So let me say this. If the NBA and the NFL, where they gauge their players by the talent, is based on the salary. If we did that in our school system, the people that are managing the school system would not be in that position based on their skill set. Because the situation is that we understand that we have some problems at JCPS. We understand that by no means. But we intend on fixing those problems within our own house. That's somebody coming in for a takeover. So for me to sit here and tell you anything different is not my character. So I agree with the board, and I stand by everything they say here.
And last we have Chris Palmer. He is the president of the Alliance to Reclaim Our Schools, ARROS, and also a member of FOR. Chris.
Good afternoon. I agree with what's been said here. Let me just try and put some numbers around it. I have information for all of you on this. First of all, the people around this table are the people who've been working, trying to change JCPS for years as critical friends as Dawn said, of JCPS. All of a sudden, we see people coming in now, and you have to ask yourself, why are they coming in now? Probably came in with an agenda that is not just about education, but much broader, about privatization and union busting, which we haven't talked about yet, and the implications for that in education.
Tell it like it is.
That's right.
The Alliance to Reclaim Our Schools came together about a year ago. Many of the groups around this table, Dear JCPS, Fellowship of Reconciliation, JCTA, the Teachers Union, LSURGE, Louisville Showing Up for Racial Justice, League of Women Voters, and the Kentucky Alliance. And now we've added Kentuckians for the Commonwealth as well. All of these groups know that local control is what we're after here. Democracy counts. Democracy makes a difference in the way our schools are run. And it's very important to look at what's going on behind the scenes here. The data says, yes, we have a gap problem, but that gap problem is actually better, is less than the problems that were identified in some of the school districts where there were takeovers. This is what SCALA, the Steering Committee for Action on Louisville Agenda, a bunch of wealthy business CEOs, tried to push in January, and we were very clear about this not being the will of the people here. That's not about the best thing for the kids, that's about the best thing for SCALA and CEOs and the business. People are in the business of charters. And so what we're really looking for here is a way for the community to be heard in Frankfurt, both through the hearing and in getting assistance, but not controlling what's going on here. Look at it from the parents and students' point of view here. The difference between takeover and assistance is night and day. Takeover covers everything. We don't even know what it covers. The assistance comes in, whether it's corrective action for specific things like Head Start, like seclusions, restraints. We have corrective actions in place for those. In fact, since they've been in place since last summer, we're getting good reviews from the state on our response to that. We think that assistance, we welcome assistance, we oppose the takeover, because the takeover could be no change until there's complete change. Conversion charters. Parents have no say in whether or not public schools would be converted to conversion charters. Changes to student assignments, no say. Changes in the behavior handbook, no say. All of those areas of public policy and the direction of our school system, no say for the people most affected. And so we all stand united in opposing this takeover.
We've just been graced with the presence of the legendary Maddie Jones. And we would like, Maddie, if you could just come up and say a few words.
Briefly about the takeover.
And thank you for coming.
Well, as you know, legendary and old school. And I believe that can't nobody come into my house and work in my house and conduct the business in my house like I can do it. That is why that the state cannot come into our system and make miracles happen when they don't know what's going on. Then two, it does not give our parents, especially African American parents, a voice in this takeover situation. And it's not all about Christ and religion and being holy than thou. It's about education. And we have shown improvement, and if they will give us the funding, if they will allow us the opportunity to continue to build up and make the mistakes that we have made, do it like we have been trying to pull it up, and we now have a good superintendent to help raise our education up to a higher level. I believe Dr. Polio can do this with the help of parents, and we will stop some of the hiring of the non-educated folk of what the department declares. Say, for instance, if you've worked all your life in a dry cleaners, I can't bring you into a school system of dealing with children. So that is one of the things that we have to correct, and we're on that move to do that. So I would say for the state to take over, for the sake of, what's his name, Governor? for the, and to say that you're holier than thou and that you wanna make these changes, it's not going to work. Because we as parents, and this is what we are on our way to do. This is my mission now, is to help let our parents know exactly what is going on here. Exactly what kind of voice they will have in educating their children. Because we talk about our children being our future, then we've got to put our feet and hands in it and use that old proverb of our African brothers and sisters, it takes a village to raise a child.
And in closing, I will say that the day our voices become silent on things that really matter is when the quality of life as we know it ends. I want to say that I am a retired educator. I served 2 terms on the Education Professional Standards Board. I am a member of the Alternative School Task Force. We are following the recommendations of the audit, but everything cannot happen at once. It's a process, it's change over time. We have community partners here that are all joining in effort to help move our school district forward. Also, to those disgruntled parents out there, go to the board meetings, make your concerns heard. When you're on social media, you're not gonna make a change there. All you're gonna do is get other people to join in, but the real change happens at Van Hoos Education when they have the school board meetings. You need to be strategic, get on board. If you need information from us, we're always here to help you. We are a pillar in the community. We've been here over 43 years, and we are asking you to get on board and let's help move this train. We do not need the 4th worst governor in the country to lead this. We do not need him to take away our vote. We voted for the school board members. You can't come in and erase that. We will not allow it. And with that being said, if anybody else wants to chime in.
Here, here.
Oh, are there any questions? Does anybody have any questions? We answered everything. We are good.